How's it going? Look, I've got chat over here so I can chat. Look, I can chat while while streaming. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. What's up? So we're just gonna talk about the Hearthstone, all the new Hearthstone stuff. I guess the first thing to talk about, obviously, there's a new Demon Hunter class, but I think the first thing I'm going to talk about is the cards that are getting retired in the Year of the Phoenix. So let's move that over here. The goal of this stream is going to be to not show people things on my desktop that I don't want to show them yet. Secret things. Anyway, so these cards are getting sent to the Hall of Fame. And as a longtime aggro player, and just an old school, World of Warcraft fan, it does hurt a little bit to see Leroy go to the Hall of Fame. But you can only be like Leroy shadow stepped so many times before it gets a little bit old. I'm gonna turn off my heater really quick because the vent is kind of loud. Be right back. It's just loud. All right, that's better. Anyway, I'm back. So yeah, Leroy makes a lot of sense. He's just like, if you're running an aggro deck, there's not a lot of like occasions where you wouldn't run Leroy. And I think what you're gonna notice with a lot of these cards is that they're cards that if you are doing a certain type of deck, you will pretty much always run that card, right? Mind Control Tech maybe doesn't quite fit into that as much, except it's been a good counter in the past to like Zoo and stuff. But if you're going to run a big hand-sized deck, you're going to run Mountain Giant. If you're going to run aggro, you're probably going to run Leroy. If you're going to run Control, you're probably going to run Acolyte of Pain. And these are all like the best cards at doing what they do, like value for price in a big, hand lock kind of deck. You've got value for card draw and control, which is very reliant on card draw. Spellbreaker is that silence, which is a strong mechanic, and it's also just good stats for the cost of 4/3 for 4. And so what you find is that a lot of these cards existing in the standard pool kind of limits the design space, it seems like, for making other cards in that 6 attack on a charge minion. And we know that Blizzard's already kind of trying to reduce / eliminate the amount of charge in standard as well, because it's one of those things that you just can't play around. And Hearthstone is at its best when it's interactive, and it's kind of weird to say that in a game where you literally do nothing on your opponent's turn. But when you have something that just does 6 damage and there's nothing you can do about it unless you maybe had a taunt or maybe had a secret out, it's probably something you want to kind of remove from the pool. So I'm okay with that. Yeah. Yeah, man, I'll put this whole stream up on YouTube a little bit later so people can see the whole discussion. Yeah. So Leroy, good reason that's out. Mind Control Tech, this is the only one, honestly, out of these that I kind of would like to keep. Because it is a random effect and it does have that qualification of your opponent having 4 or more minions, it is just a really good cost for stat line card at 3 for 3/3, so there is that, I suppose, too. But this is the only one where I'm a little bit surprised it's going out. But again, I think having a card like this out provides more opportunities to kind of change up the design space a little bit. So, that's kind of the purpose of, I think, removing a lot of these, is just to give some more room to make some more cool cards. So nothing wrong with that. So yeah, that's those are the cards that are leaving us in a Year of the Phoenix in the near future. Good riddance to some of them. Farewell, I'll miss you always to Leroy Jenkins. So let's go over to the big priest changes before we get to all the new Demon Hunter cards and all that. I'm just gonna use the Invent article. Here you go. I didn't have the ambition to download all of the all of the images and organize them, all that. So you can go, here's some free advertising for Invent. They're a good website to go and find information. Let's skip the changed cards for now. We'll go back to that. And then these cards are going to the Hall of Fame from the Priest class set. So there's some interesting stuff going out here. The two of them that jump out right away are Shadowform and Akanai Soul Priest. So it seems like the intent is to kind of move Priest towards more of a control-oriented class the Shadow Priest thing is a major part of World of Warcraft, but it always seemed like sort of a secondary thing in Hearthstone. Move the alert box up there so people can see when to stuff. Oh, Killstreaker 567. Thanks for following, man. So it makes sense if they're trying to move Priest away from this that they would remove it. I kind of thought the Shadow Form thing was a cool avenue to sort of expand on, but at the same time, what if maybe there's just a new class in the future that does a lot of the things that Shadow Priest would do? So if you kind of include the Shadow stuff in there still, you're kind of forcing the class in sort of two different directions almost. Or you run into obvious things where suddenly like Prophet Velen is helping like Akanai Soul Priest do tons and tons of damage, right? So there's like some weird stuff that happens. Obviously, this kind of destroys Combo Priest in a lot of ways. Divine Spirit was a big part of that deck. You want to buff up the health and then do Inner Fire for the big stuff. Inner Fire I guess is still in there, but Combo Priest definitely taking a hit here too. Holy Fire, just an all-around strong card at 6 mana, 5 damage, and 5 health to you. It's a 10 health swing, so that's fairly strong. And Northshire Cleric, this has been like since day one of like the beta, which I believe this card dates back to, if I remember right. I'm pretty sure it was in the game from like the very, very beginning. Northshire Cleric is definitely a card that is strongest in class in a lot of ways. It's a 1 mana for a 1/3. That stat line is just nutty to begin with. And then, of course, like the synergy it has with the Priest Hero Power, the card draw engine, it becomes very early, and it just gives Priest a lot more access to a very significant card draw early, and it also gives you a lot of control over your opponent's actions early if you drop a turn 1 Northshire Cleric, because at the 3 health stat line, it can be difficult to remove. I was wondering maybe if they would do like a change where it goes into 1/2 or something like that. So these are the Priest cards that are just simply going away. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them in chat. That's why I've got it open, so I can kind of keep track of that. Anyway, let's go back up to the existing cards that are changing. Invent did a great job of putting all the data here. A Power Word Shield used to be 1 mana, and it used to draw you a card as well, if I remember right. And I think at one point it gave +3 health, but I'm trying to remember. Anyway, that card got a little bit nerfed. 0 for +2 health. It's still a solid card. I think the card draw part of it was just a little bit too much. Holy Smite becomes Lightning Bolt for a minion anyway. Deal 3 damage to a minion. So that's an early control tool that Priest has access to now that can kill pretty much anything that goes on the board that doesn't have Divine Shield in the early parts of the game. So definitely a little bit of a buff there, I would say. Power Word Death goes down 1 mana. It used to be 3, now it's 2. So Priest does have good early and kind of late game board control, or mid game board control too, if you're talking about the 5 minions sort of, or the 5 attack sort of threshold. If you look at like Embiggen Druid, this is a very valuable card versus that because you have access to it early, and it takes out those like ridiculous giant early threats that a deck like Embiggen Druid is going to throw at you. So that's good. Thought Steal as well. Copy 2 cards in your opponent deck and add them to your hand. 2 mana down from 3. Again, just giving yourself some early additional kind of crazy options. This is an interesting change because it does essentially give you an extra card. You're spending this card, but then you're getting 2 cards back, so you're net +1 card in your hand. And they're from your opponent's deck as well, which is a whole bunch of interesting stuff. So what I like about that is that as the opponent in this scenario, you have a little bit of an ability to sort of like play around it in that you know what cards they have access to. And they might draw stuff that they can't really play right away, so that's nice. Incidentally, I've got one of my old Hearthstone beer mugs. Look at this. It's been through the dishwasher many times and has faded quite a bit. It's actually it's the Leroy Jenkins mug. What do you know? Look at that. Oh, rip Leroy. You'll live on in my mug until it fades completely. I need a new set of these, by the way. Yeah. All right. So there's that. Let's move on. Shadow Badness, a little bit cheaper. A lot of the kind of core Priest cards got just a bit cheaper. This is again, another early control tool, right? It's a tempo swing. You can take one of their minions, run it back into one of their minions, and get like essentially, theoretically, kill 2 of their minions for 3 mana, which is quite strong. Or any number of other advantages that this card is always giving you. So having access to that at 3 mana is a pretty big deal. Holy Nova going down to 4 mana is actually very scary for a lot of early game decks, because 2 damage does kill a lot of minions, and restoring 2 health to all friendly characters as well. That's potentially a very big board swing. So Priest is getting a lot of tools here that will make them very good against zoo decks and stuff like that, which they've always had they've always done well against. They've never been, like, I would say, hugely favored against zoo, but they're certainly going to do better now with some of these changes. Temple Enforcer, again, less mana, goes down to 5 from 6. I've got a feeling some of these cards are going to need to be adjusted again later, but for now, you've got an incredible stat line at 5 mana for a 5/6. That's really, really good. And you still have the battle cry of giving your friendly minion plus 3 health. So a good card just simply got better. Stat line is pretty sick. Yeah, it did lose 1 attack, but still, again, I'm a 5/6 for 5, totally fine with that. That's great. And then they're adding some new priest cards as well. So Psychic Conjure, 1 mana for 1/1. Copy a card in your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. So another sort of Thought Steal type mechanic. So Rogue isn't just the only class on the block stealing cards from opponents' decks and classes. Priest has had access to that for a while, but now they've got even more, which is interesting, and gives them kind of a way to surprise their opponent with things you might not be expecting. Another 1 mana card, 1 for 2/1. Give an enemy minion -2 attack until your next turn as a battle cry. That's another, again, really solid early game tool. It's until your next turn, which is big, so you can do that to one of their minions. Even if you don't have a way to necessarily trade with it effectively that turn, at least you don't have to worry about the damage just coming back on their turn and them attacking with it again. So the fact that it's until your next turn is really strong. Kultiran Chaplain for 2 mana for a 2/3. Again, anytime you got the stats higher than the mana cost, it's a good card. Does a lot of 2/3s for 2. This is good. Give a friendly minion 2 health. It's like a mini Temple Enforcer and another strong early game sort of power move, right? A little bit of a tempo swing if you play like a 1 mana, and then next turn you have a 2/3 and you have a 2/3. 2 2/3s on turn 2 is pretty strong stat wise. Power Infusion, 4 mana for +2/+6. Throw it on a taunt, throw it on a minion you just want to trade with, just good stat buff. Shadow Word Ruin, destroy all minions with 5 or more attack. Again, like GG in Big Druid, you dead. 4 mana to basically kill everything, which is insane. It's not targeted, so it hits stuff like all the things that are not targetable. So extremely strong card in certain matchups. And then Natalie Celine, 8 mana for an 8/1, destroy a minion and gain its health. So you might think, how many minions am I going to be killing that have a lot of health? Well, obviously there's the Druid stuff again. A lot of the Embiggen Druid kind of jumps to mind looking at a lot of these cards. But this will be good against a lot of things. But just being able to destroy a minion as well. You get the health, which is nice, but just killing a minion is cool. I don't know if we're going to be seeing as much of this card, but there might be some fun combos you can kind of figure out with it. So we'll see what people come up with. It's an intriguing card at least. And getting a double benefit out of 1 card is nice, even at 8 mana. So those are the priest changes. So let's go on to Demon Hunter stuff. And let's start with the Demon Hunter Initiate cards. And I've just got them organized in order of cheapest to most expensive. And so there might be some more reveals that I'm missing here. I think I've got everything fairly up to date. The website is usually kept pretty up to date. If not, sorry, go check it out on Reddit or something like that. We're just going to go over what's on the official Hearthstone website right now. Demon Hunter is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to playing this too. So, 0 mana spells that we know of so far. And this is the Initiate set. So this is the set that supposedly you just get from playing through the little missions that unlock the class for you. So everybody should have access to these cards right away, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. So 0 mana for Blur. Your hero can't take damage that turn. Wow. Anyone who's played Magic the Gathering knows that there's a card called Fog, and it's extremely strong because, like it says, you just can't take damage. So anytime when you just sort of negate the ability for your opponent to do damage is pretty crazy. So you combine this with weapons, and a Demon Hunter uses a lot of weapons. This is a nice little cheap way to remove a dangerous minion without taking the damage that you would have taken by attacking with your face. So definitely going to be a useful card. Another 0 mana card, Twin Slice. Give your hero +1 attack this turn. Add a second slice to your hand. Interesting. I don't know what the second slice does, if that is around. I haven't seen that yet. Let's see. Oh wait, just second slice. There we go. Oh, it's another one. Okay, just another +1 attack. So the demon hero power is just 1 mana for +1 attack. So this is another way to sort of just buff that. In fact, you can just play that, and then you can play the other one immediately. So theoretically, it's up to hero power +2 of these is 3 attack for 1 mana, which is very strong. So good by itself, but also good again because there seems to be a lot of weapony things happening with Demon Hunter. Moving on to the 1 mana spells. Battle Fiend. After your hero attacks, gain +1 attack. So again, first of all, let's talk about this stat line. 1 mana for a 2/2. That's crazy, actually. 1 mana for 2/2 is a thing that I felt like Hearthstone was trying to avoid for a long time because it is just a very, very strong stat line to have early in the game. It is very aggressive. You look at some of the priest changes, they're going to have some answers to this kind of thing, but still, you're going to be able to get a lot of damage in with this. And you play this guy, say you want to get stupidly aggressive. I don't recommend this, but just in theory, you can pair it with Twin Slice, your hero power the next turn to get 3/2 then for 1 effectively and do a lot of damage. So it is neat. It can be kind of scary. It can get out of control fast if you don't handle it quickly. Consume Magic. 1 mana, silence an enemy minion. So silence for 1 mana is strong. And it's also got the new Outcast mechanic, which is if you play the card from either the far right or the far left from your hand, and I guess with the webcam that's backwards, it's far left on the way you're looking far right, you get the extra effect. So if you play this card from one of the edges of your hand, you get to draw a card as well. So that's just a very strong card in general. Silencing is good, but if you're in dire straits and you just simply need to draw a card and you have it on an edge, you can get that as well. So I like cards like this that are versatile. You generally always want to be using it for the main purpose, which is silencing, but in worst case scenario, if you need to just cycle through something in your deck, you can use it to draw a card if it's in the right place. Another 1 mana card, Mana Burn. Your opponent has 2 fewer mana crystals next turn. That is insane for a 1 mana card because you're really, really hurting your opponent economically. And that's something that hasn't been explored all that much yet in Hearthstone, is harming your opponent economically. There's lots of ways to do that through forcing them to play certain cards because of the threats you put out on your side of the board. But being able to directly affect your opponent's mana crystals is something that, let's see, I think Warlock had access to. There were a couple cards that did it, but this is, I think, one of the strongest, if not the strongest example of that, where next turn you're just like, well, sorry, you just have 2 less mana than you did last turn. Obviously, this is a great way to get some early game tempo. If you play it super early and you're also playing let's say for example, you have a Battle Fiend and then you play Mana Burn, suddenly you're getting this big tempo advantage where you're essentially telling them that they just can't take their next turn. They can use whatever they have on the board, but they can't play anymore. So this is a very, very strong card. Very cool to see. Next, Urzul Horror. 1 for a 2/1. Death Rattle, add a 2/1 Lost Soul to your hand. And there it is, just a blank 1 for 2/1. So again, very zoo-esque. There's a lot of similarities in minions between this and like Warlock and Hunter. It's definitely designed to be another fairly aggressive class, which is cool because I do enjoy aggressive classes, and it's certainly getting some good tools for that too. So pretty straightforward card, 1 for a 2/1, and then another 2/1 to follow as well. So essentially you're getting 2 mana for 4/2 total stats, which is quite nice. I like that they put the artist here for the cards as well too. I think that's one of my favorite things. As an aside, one of my favorite things in Magic the Gathering was always reading the artist name at the bottom of the card. and appreciating the work that they did. And I think Hearthstone is one of the great sort of bastions of awesome 2D fantasy art out there right now. Even though it's all Warcraft related, it's very cool. So I'm glad to see them recognizing the artists like Zoltan Boros here, who has a Magic the Gathering name. Boros, wow, what do you know? Anyway, 2 damage, or 2 mana rather, for Blade Dance. Deal damage equal to your hero's attack to 3 random enemy minions. Again, another potentially big swingy card in an aggressive zoo type deck, right? Where you give yourself, like, perhaps, maybe 3 attack, for 1 mana, hero power, and then 2 of those. Then you do Blade Dance, and suddenly you do that damage to 3 random enemy minions. It's the early game, so you probably kill all those minions, and then you're free and clear to just continue building your board and rushing in there. So another strong card. In theory, even doing 1 damage to 3 different minions. It's like a little mini Fan of Knives, sort of. Feast of Souls, 2 mana. Draw a card for each friendly minion that died this turn. This again is a very strong card. I know there's other cards coming up in Demon Hunter that we're going to take a look at in a bit. They're a bit more expensive, that give you a lot of different tokens. So if you play your cards right, you can probably end up getting a lot of pretty extreme value from this, honestly. Especially 2 mana, this fits into a lot of hands. So another just good draw engine card. The first weapon that we're going to take a look at, Umberwing. 2 mana for a 1/2, summon 2 1/1 Fellwings. Well, there you go. Summon a couple Fellwings, draw some cards that Feast of Souls. They don't have Rush or anything like that, but still 2 mana for essentially 2/2 of stats on the board, and a 2/1 weapon that you can again pair very easily with your 1 mana hero power. So you can get a lot of power coming up very quickly from cards like this. So here's the Fellwing in case you're curious. Just a 1 for a 1/1. That's it. I-Beam. All right, 3 mana. Lifesteal, deal 3 damage to a minion. So 3 damage to a minion, 3 health back to you for 3 mana. That's pretty strong as well. But the big kicker here is that Outcast means this costs 0. So you can put together some fun combos with this, I'm sure, where you add in some damage and then cast this last to gain a little bit more health. But again, I look at this and I see, early game swing card, early game tempo, early game board control, a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, it seems like Demon Hunter, they keep talking about how it's supposed to be very aggressive, but I feel like there's some good control stuff in here as well, right? And theoretically, and in a perfect world, in my opinion, you could play every class either as an aggressive class or as a defensive class, and that would be neat. Actually, the Hearthstone meta right now, I think, is awesome because we have so many different legitimate decks from so many different classes. Masters Tour Dallas was awesome, or Arlington rather was awesome, and I think the Masters Tour in a couple of days, it's going to be really fun as well because not a ton has changed. There's been some little tweaks here and there in various decks, but overall we've got a very similar meta to the last Masters Tour. But that meta is great, so I'm super excited about the games this weekend. Anyway, Wrathscale Naga. 3 for a 3/1. After a friendly minion dies, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Wow. Okay, so that's another thing where you can pair this with some tokens and start juggling some damage. It's the Naga Juggler, basically, we can call it. That's pretty strong. Don't take that yawn as boredom. It's just been a long week. Illidari Fellblade. 4 mana for a 5/3. It's got Rush, which is nice. And Outcast gain immune this turn. Okay, cool. So when you play from the edge of your hand, you can run into something and it's not going to take damage. So that'll be pretty strong. Just again, a strong swing card. Get a 5/3 on the board for 4. 3 health is fairly resilient, so I like that. Yeah, just solid card. Cool. Raging Fell Screamer. 4 for a 4/4. Love the stat line. And Battlecry, the next demon you play costs 2 less. So that's something that, just like some other cards, there was a dragon, a 5/5 for 5 dragon that's name is escaping me right now. Maybe somebody out there knows it. But that was similar, where you got a discount on your next card of that tribe. So this does that for demons. I'm a little bit surprised this isn't a demon itself. I guess that's a Death Knight, though, so never mind. That's a Death Knight, not a demon. Death Knights have demonic blood, though, so kind of a demon. But you got to be careful what you give the tribe label to, Either way, strong card, sets you up for a stronger next turn. You can throw out a couple minions with a discount on the first one, or you can throw out something a little bit bigger earlier. It's just good. Those cards are good. Command the Illidari. Summon 6/1/1 Illidari with Rush. And if you go back to cards like, where was it? Blade Dance? Yeah, that's going to be a good one to pair with cards like this. And it is, again, 6/6 worth of stats for 5 mana. So cost-wise, it's pretty good too. You also have Rush as well, which is nice. Wrathspike Brute, 5 for a 2/6 taunt. The first taunt minion we've seen for Demon Hunter. After this is attack, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Wow, that's pretty crazy actually. So with the 6 health on it, it's going to be doing some damage, and crucially, it's all enemies, not all minions or all players, or all characters rather. It's all enemies. So that's going to be a card that people are going to have to want to play around pretty aggressively. Maybe a silence target if there's going to be more access to silence overall in the next expansion. Hard to say. But anyway, just seems like a strong card. Like a lot of these. And a lot of these do seem very strong because they're really trying to kick Demon Hunter off, right? Make it a strong class to begin with. I would much rather have a class be a bit overtuned when it comes out and have them have to nerf some things than undertuned and have to bring it up. Because you want it to be strong because you want a lot of people playing it, so you get a lot of data points and then know how you need to adjust things. So I like that a lot of these are strong. Flame Reaper, 7 mana for a 4/3. Also damages the minions next to whoever your hero attacks. Wow. Okay, so potentially 12 damage spread across 3 different minions. That's, again, just plain good. To clear the board a little bit, it's got 3 durability, so you're going to get that 3 times. 7 mana is pretty expensive. By the time you get to the point in the game where you're playing this, that 4 damage, potentially 5 with the hero power, but then you're up to 8 mana. That 5 damage might not be enough to clear things right away, especially with the feeling I have that like minion numbers, the stat numbers on minions have just kind of been getting bigger lately. So I don't know how useful this one is going to be. I like the effect, but I think the mana cost might be a little bit prohibitive. We'll see. It's not. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to say nobody's going to use it, but this is one of the cards where I'm like a little bit unsure if I would put it in the deck. I'd probably test it out. I would put it on the bubble, if I was making a Demon Hunter deck. Hulking Overfiend. So Rush, after this attacks and kills a minion, it may attack again. 8 for a 5/10. And with that effect, I really like that. Because if you rush, you kill something, you just kind of keep going in. It's 1 mana more than Flame Reaper, but it doesn't involve you taking damage for hitting things like you would from a weapon, unless you use Fog, I suppose. And then this has a big enough health pool that you can get a couple swings out of it probably. So this may be a more practical version of accomplishing what this is trying to accomplish in certain situations. So I do like this card. It's pretty solid. Alright, so that is all the Initiate cards. So now, let's just look at the Ashes of Outland cards that have been released. Let's just go mana and then go class to class, I guess. You can do that. Alright, more Demon Hunter cards. We've got the Furious Felfin, 2 mana for a 3/2. If your hero attack this turn, gain +1 attack and rush. So again, another easy card to use early on with your cheap 1 mana hero power. And just as an aside with hero powers in Hearthstone, I think one direction it would be really cool if they went in the game in the future would be to offer alternative hero powers. And the way you do that, in my opinion, is you do a 1 mana hero power, a 2 mana hero power, maybe even a 3 mana hero power, and then you have the strength of those hero powers appropriate with the mana cost, right? And so then you present players with a lot of really interesting choices when they're building their deck as well, is what hero power they build that deck around with that class. So that would definitely add a neat, cool layer of complexity. And with the new class only having a 1 mana hero power, now I feel like there's a reason to say, hey, let's in the future just give everybody a 1 mana hero power. That's a little bit like something different, a little bit weaker theoretically than the 2 mana hero power, but an alternative choice, right? Because if you have a 1 mana hero power, it's okay if it's a little bit weaker because you're gaining that extra mana theoretically in a turn to play more cards. And then why not go the other way and give a 3 mana hero power that's strong, but 3 mana is a big commitment. You can't do it until your third turn unless you have the coin. So as an aside, I'd really love to see more stuff being played with hero powers. Yeah, that's right, and that's a good point. They've done similar mechanics in adventures and things like that, so that would be neat. Yeah, could be a start of the game card to select a hero power. I think it'd be neat if it was just something you'd select in your deck choice, so that you can kind of share it as you're sharing decks and stuff. Something that your opponent would be aware of going into the game, so you can kind of plan around it. So yeah, if it was implemented, I'd love to see it as something that was chosen as you built your deck. I think that'd be really neat. But anyway, back to the actual cards. It is an interesting topic, though. I want to have a chat with more Hearthstone folk on that one. Furious Falcon, like we talked about, it gets +1 attack and rush. If you used if your hero attacked this turn, very easy to do. So theoretically, a 4/2 for 2. Strong card. Again, can have a positive impact on the board early on by clearing something bigger than it. Spectral Sight, like Illidan's face, like cracks me up in this picture. He's just like, he just looks irritated. Like this is the face that I have when like I'm within 6 feet of someone and they cough right now. Where I'm just like, you know, like that. That's Illidan's face. This is my favorite art for the new card. Thank you, Jacob Casper, for this wonderful Illidan face. This has meme potential right here, man. This is some real meme potential. Anyway, the card itself, though, 2 mana. Draw a card, outcast, draw another. So, theoretically, 2 mana to draw 2 cards. That's great, you know? You're essentially gaining +1 card in your hand. You're cycling through your deck quickly, which is generally what a lot of decks want to do in card games. And the outcast effect is something that you can kind of plan for ahead of time. Without outcast, it's pretty bland. 2 mana for 1 card draw. So this is the kind of card you really kind of want to wait until you have the opportunity to use the outcast ability before you play it. Something to consider there. So good, but maybe a little bit tricky to use. Metamorphosis, a legendary spell, 5 mana. Swap your hero power to deal 5 damage. After 2 uses, swap it back. That is pretty crazy, right? You get Demonic Blast, still 1 mana. That's the really interesting kind of fact about this, is that it's now a 1 mana for 5 damage hero power. And yeah, it costs 5 mana to do, but that's potentially 10 damage to face. That's potentially clearing big minions for very cheap. So this is, I think, a card a lot of decks are going to be using. It's pretty neat. And another changing hero power example. Cool. 5 mana for the Skull of Gul'dan. You'd think the Skull of Gul'dan would rate a little bit more than 5 mana, but, you know, it's a pretty famous skull is all I'm saying, you know. Draw 3 cards, outcast, reduce their cost by 3. So that's where this card does get kind of like crazy powerful, is if you can play it for its outcast cost, you can get a lot of nearly free cards, because if you're playing an aggressive deck, reducing a card's cost by 3 is going to make a lot of stuff really cheap. So I think you would definitely put this in a zoo type deck as sort of like board refill in the mid game. I think it would be very useful for that. But I'm excited to test this one. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely rough when Warlock's over there taking damage to draw 3 cards. It's annoying. Warglaves of Azzanoth. You'd think this would be a legendary one, right? Because it was a legendary item in World of Warcraft. But hey, you know, I'm not one to judge. 5 mana for a 3/4. After attacking a minion, your hero may attack again. So I guess you do get to attack multiple times if you attack minions. So it's good board clear. It's got good durability to support that. The only thing I'm kind of disappointed with is that with such a legendary, in a literal sense and also, you know, a figurative sense, such a legendary thing like the Warglaves of Azzanoth, like, you know, Illidan's personal weapons, I would have liked to see it be a stronger card. That's just a personal thing. I would have liked to see this be like a legendary with some crazy effect or something like that, you know. It's good, but like, come on, like we could think of different Warglaves for this effect than the actual Warglaves of Azzanoth, right? Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, if you have Gul'dan's skull, then Gul'dan is dead. That's a very good point. Yep. Maybe I wasn't prepared for it to be legendary, but I think it should be. I think the Warglaives of Asenath not being legendary and not being this crazy powerful item are kind of a crime. All right, Pit Commander, 9 for a 7/9 with Taunt. At the end of your turn, summon a demon from your deck. So this right here kind of screams control to me, where you have like a lot of big minions that you want to cheat out for free. You wouldn't probably put this in a zoo deck or like a mid-range deck because for one, it's really expensive. And for two, it might just pull out like a 1/1 or something, or a card that you want the battle cry from. So there are some little tools in here, some cards that kind of make you think, hey, maybe Demon Hunter really has some control options as a non-aggro deck, despite like everyone just saying it's an aggro class. There are some cards that kind of help you do other things than that. So it's interesting to see. Fungal Fortune. So we're moving on to Druid now. And again, these are the cards from Ashes of Outland that have been announced so far. There might be a couple that I'm missing. I'm just going off the main website right now, which is usually pretty up to date. But if I skip a couple, whatever, you'll live. I'll live too. Fungal Fortunes, rather. Draw 3 cards. Discard any minions drawn. So it's kind of interesting. It's the alternative to that mage card that draws spells or draws minions and discards spells. So for 2 mana, it's a little bit of a risk. Book of Specters, thank you. That was the name. It was kind of slipping my mind. But yeah, that's it's an interesting sort of conundrum. Obviously, you can build a deck to make this very good. I think a lot of token druid decks use a lot of spells instead of minions to gain their board advantage, obviously, because you're making tokens. So it could work in something like that, perhaps, a sort of hand refill. But a card with a downside, for sure. I remember collecting these fungal spores as well. BC was my probably my favorite expansion. Well, Wrath of the Lich King was so good too. That's a tough choice. Maybe I liked Wrath overall. I think I liked Wrath overall a little bit more, but I think I liked raiding in BC more because that was a time when I was really raiding with like a really tight group of friends. So I have the happiest raiding memories out of Burning Crusade, but I think I have the best overall game memories out of Wrath of the Lich King because the game was so good. Anyway, Archspore Mishifin. Hold on. Wait, let's see. Selston tweeted at me as far as how to pronounce it, but I didn't remember that, so whatever. Mishifin. I'll get it. I think I'm close enough. Archspore Mishifin. 3 for 3/4 with Taunt. Death Rattle, shuffle Mishifin Prime into your deck. Prime is a new, I guess you could sort of say, mechanic. It deals with certain legendaries where you get a stronger version after the first one dies. Here's a stronger version. Mishifin Prime. Taunt for a 9/9, 10 mana. Choose one. Summon a 9/9 fungal giant with Taunt or Rush. Cool. And apparently if you have the Druid quest completed, then you summon a 9/9 fungal giant that has Taunt and Rush. You just get both in the pick 2 situation. Imprisoned Satyr is the next one. 3 for a 3/3. Dormant, that's another new mechanic that certain demons have in this set apparently, where they just kind of chill for 2 turns, and then when they awaken, they have an effect. So in this particular one, dormant for 2 turns, so you play it and it doesn't do anything, but after 2 turns when it awakens, reduce the cost of random minion in your hand by 5. So that can potentially be very, very strong. So on turn 5, if we're starting from you playing this on turn 3, you would have a minion that costs 10 that you could play. So there's situations where this could end up being very strong, especially in Druid if you play it early. And as a 3 for 3/3 stat line, when it wakes up, it's just going to be a pretty decent body to have on the board too. So I think that'll be a card a lot of people try to play around with. Moving on to Hunter cards, it looks like. Scavenger's Ingenuity. 2 mana, draw a beast, give it 3/3. Wow. So it doesn't change the mana cost. So in very aggressive Hunter decks, you can get very big stuff very quickly. So this is a pretty exciting card, actually. You do give up a little bit of early game tempo if you play it, because you're essentially spending 2 mana that is not a threat on the board. But if you pair it with a lot of stronger early game minions that Hunter has access to, this could result in, again, a big swing. Rush is very popular in Hunter right now. This makes that even stronger. So probably a card some people are going to be playing around with, I would say. Going back to Priest, or Mage, rather, I guess. Is this right? Are there only... Oh, yeah, there's only a couple released for that class. Okay, so Mage, rather. 3 for a 4/5. Imprison Observer, another Dormant Demon. So it doesn't wake up for 2 turns after you play it. When it awakens, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. So nice AoE when it pops up. Good for Mage, for board control and things like that. To pair, again, you do 2 damage when it wakes up. And then you follow this with another Mage AoE spell. So you can put together some nice board clears with it and end up with a 4/5 on the board, which again is just a strong minion stat-wise. So definitely worth checking out. Moving on to Rogue. Blackjack Stunner. 1 for a 1/2. I like the stats already. Battlecry. If you control a secret, return a minion to its owner's hands. It costs 2 more. So essentially, you can frozen trap something if you already have a secret out. So Secret Hunter, or a Secret Rogue, rather. I would love to see that kind of thing. It'd be interesting. Rogue does kind of have to get those secrets in a lot of cases from other places, but it is neat. It's a neat card to think about. This is the card where you see and you're like, I wonder what they've got planned for Rogue in the future, actually, because this card seems like something where they're thinking farther ahead, than right now. So it's cool. Another Rogue card, Ambush, and there it is. It's a secret. So after your opponent plays a minion, summon a 2/3 ambusher with Poisonous. So Poisonous is always a really great effect to just one-shot anything. And you get this after they play a minion. Very easy for the secret to pop. And again, something to pair with Blackjack Stunner. Nice. And on to Shaman, it looks like. Bogstrok Clacker. 3 for 3/3. Battlecry. Transform adjacent minions into random minions that cost 1 more. So good stat line and a cool effect. The evolve mechanic is the evolve mechanic is something where you either love it or you hate it, or you both in Shaman. It's fun, but it's always a little bit of a risk. But using this on totems, using this on tokens is generally pretty strong. So where the stats and the mana cost line up pretty nicely, I think you could definitely see this used a bit. Neat card to think about too. When is Crab going to become a tribe, by the way? I guess they're beasts, but still, Yeah, it's love and hate. Yeah. Lady Vash, 3 for a 4/3, legendary shaman minion. Spell damage +1, and a death rattle. Shuffle Vash Prime into your deck, and the Prime is a 7 for a 5/4, spell damage +1. Battlecry, draw 3 spells, reduce their cost by 3. So that's a nice effect right there in terms of just filling your hand with cheap, powerful stuff later in the game. Definitely something that kind of keeps your deck going a little bit more if you're going to late game, if you're playing a little bit more of a sort of controlling kind of style. It's kind of neat. I like it. Bogspine Knuckles, 5 for a 4/2 shaman weapon. After your hero attacks, transform your minions into random ones that cost 1 more. Oh boy. Wow. Okay. That is interesting. So that could put together some really insane turns for shaman, depending on what pops out when you do this. Thanks for the follow, Renton 007, by the way. But yeah, this will be a card that's just going to be fun to use. Like, if you're like me and you like your Hearthstone games to just kind of be crazy sometimes, this is going to be a fun card to play with. Yeah, I love the flavor text too. I would not want to put my hand in there. It's squishy. Yeah, that's understandable. Another shaman card. 5 mana for Torrent. Deal 8 damage to a minion. Costs 3 less if you cast a spell this turn. So it can become 2 damage for 8, or 2 mana for 8 damage. If you've played something else, Shaman generally does have a good amount of spells they have access to. So this could be some good, strong minion clear, basically, is what it's designed to be. And that's, I think, what it's going to be. Not much to say there. Shadow Console, onto Warlock cards. 1 mana, replace your hand with random demons, give them +2/+2. Alright, so I really would love to play with this in like kind of a zoo deck, this could be really fun actually, because you don't know if those demons are going to be playable demons essentially, but I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to mess with. So I'm excited about this card. Another Warlock card, the Dark Portal. 4 mana, draw a minion. If you have at least 8 cards in your hand, it costs 5 less. Wow. So did you miss Mountain Giant? Well, here's your chance to have a similar effect if you have a lot of cards in your hand. Again, this is going to be sort of a card that helps Warlock kind of continue to do the hand lock kind of thing. Mountain Giant rotating out, going to the Hall of Fame, does hurt your hand a lot, but it is going to be fun. Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about this. Like this is a different deck than you would use this in. I think you wouldn't use this in a hand lock. I mean, you could use this in a hand lock deck, but you'd be taking a pretty big risk. Yeah. But anyway, all right. Let's see. I'm saying if you're honestly like, I would try this in Zoo. I would try this in Zoo because if you've got like an uninspiring hand and you draw this, it's perhaps a way out. It's probably not as good, but maybe I'd give it a shot. Yeah. What's up, Nicole? Dark Portal. We just talked about this. Yeah. What? Oh my gosh! Look at this guy. He is getting blocked. Goodbye. All right. Away with you. You've been banished. Yeah. It's because I have the chat right on the screen here, so you can see me do it in real time. So Warrior is the next class right now. 3 for a 1/4, the Bulwark of Azzinoth. See, this is a legendary item. Why did this get legendary like it was supposed to, but the Warglaves of Azzinoth did not? It's just so unfair. 3 mana for 1/4. Whenever your hero would take damage, this loses 1 durability instead. Wow. If you can time this properly, you can make some pretty crazy stuff happen with this. Yeah, it's very strong. In certain control matchups, you can kind of predict when big damage is coming in. It has 4 durability, so you can prevent a lot, honestly, in a turn. This is going to be another nice control warrior card. I'm looking forward to using it. It kind of has to be legendary, because having 2 of these in your deck would be like way too good. Yeah. 2 would be way too good. So it has to be legendary. I still think the Warglaive should be legendary, but they would need a stronger effect, of course. Another warrior legendary, Kargath Blade Fist. 4 for a 4/4. Rush, and he's got a Death Rattle. 8 mana for a 10/10 with Rush. Whenever this kills and attacks a minion, or attacks and kills a minion, gain 10 armor. Wow, I love it. That's just your typical strong late game, you're never going to get through all the armor type of warrior card. Yeah. Yep, I remember playing against Kargath many times. He was in one of the... what was the name of the instance he was in? It was in the 3rd... He was the boss of the instance, the 5-man one you unlocked at level 70 in Hellfire Peninsula. It was like the top of like the spire. I can't remember the name of the instance. I'm sure one of you does, but yeah. BC, I'm having all these great Burning Crusade memories now. When is WoW Classic going to become Burning Crusade? They gotta bump it up. I have to actually hit 60 in WoW Classic. Maybe I should be streaming myself leveling instead. Mo'arg Artificer. 2 for a 2/4. All minions take double damage from spells. Huh. Into neutral minions, by the way, now. This is interesting. I suppose you could use it. You could try throwing it in Mage. You could try throwing it in a lot of classes, actually. It's all minions, so it can be a little bit of a double-edged sword. But I've got a feeling this is going to be one of those cards that is going to be like a must-include for certain decks that emerge. The effect is very specific, but it's too good to not use in certain decks. So, yeah. So I think this one will be solid. This one is going to be used almost certainly. Terran Gorefiend, another legendary. 3 for a 3/4. Battlecry, destroy all friendly minions. Death Rattle, resummon them +1/+1. That's kind of a fun way to sort of cycle the board a little bit. I think, yeah, there's definitely going to be some fun combos you can put together from him, because you want him in and out pretty fast. He's a 3 for a 3/4, which is good stats for the cost as well, so he's going to be a little bit of a threat as well. But it's also a way to maybe honestly, it's a way to maybe protect your board if you're going into a turn where you're worried about being AoE'd, and then bring your board back with a health total that theoretically would avoid that area of effect damage that you were worried about. Shattered, yeah, I think Shattered Halls was that. I think for Kargath Bladefist, I think I think that was Shattered Halls. Is it? Oh yeah, Shattered Hand. Yep. Anyway, Kel'Thas Sunstrider, which is a card I believe is available in the game right now. If you log in, you just get it. So everyone should have access to this card already, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think you do. 6 mana for a 4/7. Every third spell you cast each turn costs 0. So I think that's going to be a card a lot of people are going to mess with. A lot of people are going to be trying this card because getting that third spell for 0, you can do all sorts of crazy shenanigans with that. The thing is, he is a 6 mana card, so being able to get him in play, keep him alive, and to get this effect is going to be a little bit tricky, and that might make it prohibitive to use him instead. But I think it's too neat of an effect to not want to experiment with a little bit. So I'm sure people will be trying it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do think this guy is really interesting. You were saying if you don't have much of a board, he's not worth that much. But if you do, so you get more value, then you could be leaving yourself wide open. That is true. I'm kind of thinking, as someone who plays a lot of zoo and aggro decks, I'm thinking I have this nice board, but I know the next turn is the turn where my opponent always plays like Hellfire or Blizzard or whatever. They always play that card that warps my board because that wipes my board because it does just enough damage. So on those turns, I can play this guy, get rid of my board for the moment. If I'm playing against a slower deck, I'm not probably worried about a lot of damage coming into me. And then they're like, well, I guess I can't really do my AoE turn like I planned. I get rid of Terran Gorfiend then the next turn in some way, and then bring back the board at theoretically a health total that is harder for them to deal with. So I think it's a card that, if played right, can help you avoid some of those swing turns that control decks kind of rely on for AoE. So it's probably a little bit more complex to play it the way I'm describing, but that's what comes to mind when I look at this guy. Yeah. Obviously silence is also a concern, but I mean, you can place that argument towards any card, right? Where it's like, this card is good unless it's silenced. Like, of course, that's always going to be a thing you have to worry about. And that just kind of comes to knowing your opponent's deck and knowing the likelihood of them running that silence. So, yeah. Edwin, obviously, yeah, you're right. Edwin Van Cleef is a prime example of that. But when I look at these cards, I'm not really worried about being silenced because that's a whole separate thing that affects literally almost every card in the game. So, not really worth being concerned about when we're just doing some like brainstorming, theory crafting kind of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, Kel'Thas, he's going to be fun. Him being silenced, he's still 4/7, so whatever. That's fine. So that is pretty much it for the new cards that have been announced so far. I think that's everything. I'm going to refresh the page just in case something's been announced. Let's see, March 18th. This one is, what's this? Wait, nah, forget that. That's a YouTube video. We don't want to watch that. Let's see. Load a high. Anything else we missed? Nope. That's everything. All right, cool. Neat. So,